You're recorded.
Okay, all right. So let's call this meeting to order and introduce our guests, which we have at this point.
Oh, just a second. Dave, I think you're getting an echo. If you turn off the speaker part of yours, you will, I think you will not get that. That way the microphone will still pick up the conversation. There's speakers. Yep. Oh, sorry. Thank you.
All right, guests. Right now we have guests, Sarah Simmons. Any other guests here at non-members? Nope. So approval agenda. Anybody have anything they want to add or omit on the agenda? Online, anybody? All good. On the phone, anybody on the phone?
John Schmidt here.
The agenda look okay to everybody? Okay. Move on, approval of minutes. I looked over the minutes about 10 minutes ago and right after the meeting. Everything looked good from the last meeting. I didn't see anything that was out of line. Anybody online?
Is it your computer?
It's that speaker. Oh. It's because I'm talking about it. We had this problem in the water supervisor council.
Oh, did you? Oh,
Yeah.
it's the first week.
Well, it doesn't bother us here in the room, but we- okay. So if there's no objections, we'll go ahead and approve those minutes. And so let's have our EGLE update. Sarah Pearson.
Hello and good afternoon. And I really wish I could be there in person. I was planning on it and was so excited that we were going to be there in person, but I'm in quarantine, so you don't really want me there. So, but I'm doing
Miss you,
fine.
but please stay away.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I will see you at the next one in person. But anyhow, EGLE updates. Our biggest news is that our EGLE director is stepping down, Liesl Clark, and we will have a new acting director, Dan Eichinger from DNR, has been named as acting in her place until the governor appoints a new director for EGLE. I don't have anything more beyond that, but that's the biggest news that we have. I don't know. I see Brian is on. Brian, I don't know if you wanted to share anything on division perspective on that change, but as far as we know, everything is still.
We
Stay
really
the
don't
course.
have any additional details on that for really what's going in there. Dan's going to come over as our acting director. The assistant of director for DNR is stepping into the role, which makes it maybe look like maybe the assignment might be more permanent to us, but we don't really know that at that point. That's just kind of all speculation on our side, and we really don't have. That's going to occur. That transfer is going to occur at the beginning of the year, so we are still until the beginning of the year, and then we will transition over to that at the coming new year.
Right. And as
I really
far
don't have anything else in details of how that's going to impact. We really don't have that information at this point.
so as far as we're concerned, we're staying the course. And
You want to
then
go ahead and continue on with your, if you don't have anything else on that, continue on with your STM standards.
yeah, yes, that's the next big news that we have. And we just heard today that the regulatory impact statement that we prepared was approved by Moore. And we are now moving to the next phase, which is planning the public comment and public hearing. And our legislative contact on that works for EGLE. She has bumped the meeting up from January to next week for us to start planning when we're going to get that public comment and public hearing period opened up. So that is great news. It came back for more without any edits, which I hear is a very rare circumstance. So I think
Did your homework good then?
yep, and Dave did a fabulous job of writing it up, right, Dave?
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Would you like to add anything more on that, Dave?
I'm looking over basically what I kind of put together here. About the only thing that we saw, we had legal services look at the rules, draft rules language, and the only thing that legal services had was they took in Rule 140, they took one of the sentences and moved it from number 2 and created a number 3. So literally that really has been it. So,
Well, the thing I could say on it is I just come back from the National Groundwater Association meeting and we're not alone. Other states are facing the same problem. Some did emergency rules until they get the rules changed. Others did just a basic statement by their regulatory agency to go ahead and do what they can do. But we're not alone. Can I ask people if they've gotten phone calls from the locals saying they're having problems getting the contractors to do work because they can't find a product or anything like that? I just didn't want to see a panic going out there where work's kind of been done. Anything major, or is it just pretty much like it's been?
I've gotten a few calls from contractors, from health departments. I think Barry Eaton called and said something along the lines of, what do we have to do to approve this? And we're like, yeah, but, from what I've been hearing, I haven't really heard anyone saying, we can't get the product or that they're unwilling to use 1L at this point. Unless, like, I know maybe some people aren't plugging their wells until later. I'm not sure. I haven't heard that, but.
I did run into one issue that I want to bring up. I'm not quite sure how to address it. So I purchased some type 1 cement, got it back to the shop. Looked at the bag said this exact statement. Type 1 or type 1L means ASTM 150 or C595.
Some good marketing.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, I'm sitting there, and I didn't notice until I went out and looked at the bag, and I'm looking at it going, does this really say what it? Yeah, it does. And so be aware of that. Whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, that is out there. So, we can move on to marijuana grow facilities. Okay. Thank you. Anybody else have anything on cement? Online, anybody? Marijuana grow facilities, we had our board meeting a while ago, last month.
November 14th.
Yeah, I brought this up to the board and they wanted me to reach out to some other associations before I sent a letter to see what they're doing as far as marijuana grow, and basically Ohio and Indiana, which I actually got an opportunity to go down and speak to both of those. I talked to them a little bit. And they're just basically had, they're up in arms too because the businesses are so new. What to do with isolation distances of chemicals and what to do. So different states are following different protocols, whether to put it in that type 2 category or type 3, but isolation distances seem to be the key, especially chemicals and fertilizers and stuff that they use. Now I know with the well, with the company equipment, stuff like that. So the board gave me some latitude once I found that information out. Now we'll be copying EGLE on the letter that's going out to our members to be aware that when they're drilling wells for marijuana grow facilities that, they need to be aware of some isolation distances, that they may want to be a little bit proactive and maybe stop and be further away rather than go with a standard 50, because we don't know what that marijuana grow facility is going to do in the near or far future. No, I will tell you this, that industry is severely hurting. It's just, the old saying is, it was easy, everybody be doing it. Well, guess what? Everybody's doing it. So, they're selling off licenses, and these big grows are now being either financially strapped or hurt. So we're yet to see what happens with that. Usually we find out when that happens, that's when the like start happening. I don't know, there's no protocol for going back out and doing the inspections, the way it should be these things. But so that's what's gonna happen there. Anybody have anything else on marijuana, anything new from EGLE that they've run? Okay. I don't see a lot of new ones going in right now, at least in southern, central Michigan.
I know the groundwater, the PERC 22 groundwater discharge folks are working on some general permitting related to them, but I haven't really heard. I know that process takes a good 12 to 18 months for them to get through that entire process.
Is it because of hydroponics?
I'm not sure, but probably whatever effluent's coming out of the grow houses, they're having some issues with that discharge. So they are working on a general.
Yeah, we had an issue in Calhoun County, major issue with one.
Yeah, they're seeing a lot of interesting effluent issues, so.
Oh, I had well filter.
I'm not exactly sure what they're seeing in there, to be honest. I try not. That's one industry I haven't gotten involved in.
You're talking about the wastewater
Yeah.
dispersal?
Yeah.
I think it'd be
I don't know
nice
anything
to
about
get-
Whatever nutrients they have in there.
I've seen it anywhere from just, it goes to, they have a special drain field to, they're having hauled, kind of, kind of the size of the facility. I did see one where they're discharging it back in the water well.
Yeah. So
And they'll recycle their actual thing.
Yeah.
Basically clean it, so again, until they're in one, they can't clean it before, that's what.
And I think at the discharge point, that's where they're too close to the wells, not meeting groundwater discharge standards. So they're trying to get a handle on that, because they don't.
But we don't have
They
that
don't
category.
fit into a category, so they're doing 2210 Y permits. And so they're trying to get a general permit category for them.
So what you're telling us, is your headache level is where it needs to be.
Yeah, no, if I'm not, I'm hands off on that one, but meeting I was at, they did talk about.
I appreciate that. MGWA appreciates that. We're on to C, 2023 Michigan Groundwater Association Annual Education Conference. I'm going to defer to Dana as you put this together.
Well, it's in Grand Rapids and it is February 9th and 10th. And I want to thank the people at the state who were going to have the fundamentals course. It's already, that's probably the easiest portion to put together. Thank you. We have the second day, which gets into the pumps and related equipment application. I do have a question, Buddy, on the board. Did they talk about scholarships for the health departments at all?
Yes.
Okay, is there anything to add on that? We need to probably get the word out.
It's in the minutes, because of, and I'm not making an excuse, but because the National Groundwater Association has taken on more member states. Dave Schulenberg now has California, Kentucky, Montana, Illinois, Michigan, Minnesota,
Idaho.
one more, Kansas. There's 7 states now, and he's been doing conferences, so he's gonna get that together and get a letter out. We're gonna just sponsor sanitarians.
So who do we contact? And I've done a letter in the past and got it approved and then send it out to go onto the website.
So that's what we're gonna do.
Okay, so I'll touch base.
Touch base with Dave and myself probably next week, because he just got back to Vegas.
But as far as contacting the health department themselves to.
We'll
send
send
that
it, we'll actually
invitation.
send it right direct.
No, I was gonna say, you can get it, I'm the.
We can give it to you,
president of
too.
The directors right now, so I can get that on
Yeah.
our.
I'll do that. too.
Deputy health officer and the each director,
Excellent.
still I'll get it.
We're looking for you.
I'll get it out. Well, I'm mentioning it today, it was on my agenda, and I've kept it at the bottom of my agenda, so. I just to put that, but can you define sponsorship? Are you talking about a discounted rate? Are you talking? about-
Yes, what we do. What we do is we call it a scholarship, and it originally started, the fundamentals course got down to be around 25, 30 people. And then, together, we basically talked what we could do for the fundamentals course. And we volunteered as partnership to offer scholarship to fairly new sanitarians that needed the fundamentals course, and there was a restriction based on finances, time available. So the industry came up through Michigan Groundwater, participants and members, that we would pay for half of the registration costs. So if it was a $200 two-day registration cost, we would fund off of the list, the request, for half of that cost. So
For the course itself,
for the course itself,
not hotel, anything like that, so.
right, we had no control on that.
$100 on per.
But once again, I know that there's several members have already positioned themselves to donate the monies for, I know they're up to eight or 10 right now.
If you could, if that could be in the letter, because that's the first question I'm gonna get one, how much they're gonna cost me, you know?
Right.
If they're trying to budget
So
for.
how that works, Tony, is I can't sponsor Sarah because that is not. Well, what we do is everybody puts money in a fund, and we'll say, okay, we have 35 scholarships, we got 10, so the first 10 to sign up gets them, whatever it ends up being, because that way it's just first come, first serve, and when it's gone, it's gone.
Is it a full day, half day training? What is it?
2 days.
Okay, so is it kind of like the old Gabe or Ron Holman?
Yes, yes,
Exactly.
that's what we term the fundamentals course.
Gotcha.
We have 2 tracks, and what happened is.
They don't take the exam though, like they used to begin with.
That's for the people. This is training for people in the industry, and it's the training for anyone that wants to take the tests. Specifically, but then we now have a second track, an education track for advanced. So you take a look at the program.
Right.
And so it's available for not only the fundamentals course, but there's an advanced track.
Is this offered anywhere else or at any other times of the year? I feel just the reason I'm asking is, you know, our issues right now is, you know, DHHS is the environmental health unit, it went from 20 to 300 in 5 years. We're facing a workforce shortage. You know, I'm talking to schools, health schools, you know, and they're taking sanitarians. The state is taking people to fund and man these positions with ED9. There's another potential, you know, 400 people that could be hired. We got a young staff. I know I personally do. You know, I got 80 sanitarians in Oakland, but you know, there's a chunk of them that need training. You know, they still are. You know, we probably would want, you'd have the need to increase this course multiple times a year potentially. Scholarship or not.
Yeah, I mean, we do online at our website, at our Well Construction website.
Yeah.
We offer basically during COVID, we offered basically a well construction training, I think 6, 8 modules.
Yeah.
They're up anywhere from a half an hour to 45 minutes apiece. Those videos are on our website, under educational materials, and anyone can go in there at any time and watch those videos. And it gives the name, email address, and phone number of the person that's presenting, and any of us would be willing to answer any of their questions at any time, which is. So
And
there's
those are general topics we usually, you know, bring to.
Well logs,
Well logs.
drilling methods.
I mean, we've incorporated, you know, in our, maybe you guys too, in our training, but I know there's a lot of new EH directors that were either field sanitarians or just kind of got transitioned from, you know, emergency preparedness into EH or whatever. They don't know about this stuff. So, it's just a one component of our training, but it might be all the formal training that some smaller ones can get. But in the field doing it, I know you guys, when, on the city trains, they're out regulating to have some training and
I
knowledge.
agree. I agree.
That, so,
I guess I would say it this way, Tony, if the need is there and it gets big enough where it's, financially
yeah.
can work out where we can rent, rent a space, even do a 1 day. Crash
You go
course.
out, I think you had to see 2 or 3 wells from start to finish before you even took the exam back when I was
Correct.
30 years ago,
Right.
And even that field component would be a value, I think.
I agree.
Some people that maybe they move from foods or body art or something and never seen.
I agree. I think it is very important.
Probably another opportunity is with the Michigan Environmental. They do, one of the fundamental, goals of their organization is education and outreach. I think that. Yeah, but I think if there's more of a need and there's a greater frequency, that might be a natural fit for to engage with me in Migwa to forge an education.
Are you talking about the AEC conference in March? or-
Yeah, but what I'm saying is there may be opportunities for more trainings to help support more trainings outside of the agency.
And who do I contact? Who do we contact? Because
Oh, but I know that, the ABC committee is, as far as,
Steve,
I don't know, I'm drawing a blank on the current president.
you're in the Miha or the Maliha?
Malia,
Maliha.
the director.
Okay, that's. And then we're looking for better communications with that crew. I know that we put it on the website before at the state and Miha has done that. It would be nice, and they do not release unless we did research and found out the head of all the health departments has sent that in to make sure. But that sometimes gets stuck at the head where some of the branch operations in like northern Michigan, District 2, District 4, some of the locals would like to know about it because they've taken their own time at times that when it's not financed. They've come in by themselves, but we have a hard time getting down to that level. And it changes, of course, every year. And we would, we really should communicate that we would be willing to do what's ever necessary in this industry for training. I know we've had a great partnership. We had, we invited under a request to have local sanitarians come into supply houses to go out through equipment and to talk through, what equipment is. And that was done as a request. Did you probably saw that? Walk
We
through.
talked about that last meeting.
So, I guess if I could just take a minute, they brought to my attention that we met with, and I guess I did it through Milan and Valley Farms, where we met with Brandon Onan. There's a real need for new engineers at the state level for training on pump picking and equipment, advancements in the industry. And they've asked for training, and we're working on two types of in a classroom type training. The second one would be to record some of that and have some modules available at that upper level. And the third one is they want a drilling demonstration. So touching base with Dave in front of this, I'm going to keep that in front of Dave and the group here.
They're trying to fix the camera.
Okay, I was gonna say, Lansing, are you there? Kind of like Houston.
Yeah, I let them know it was frozen and they said they're trying to fix, oh, I see. She says Dave's rebooting.
So
Okay,
they'll be back.
okay.
Whatever's requested for education.
So I'm glad you brought up the DHHS folks, and like, if we're, it sounds like the path of, having, DHHS work with health departments on a regional basis, looking at water quality concerns, I think brings up maybe a gap that we do have, and is, formalized training on existing wells that are not submersible. That was adaptive, also the stab wells and the
Jet pumps,
Jet
wells in the
pumps.
basement,
because
all the well
I
house.
think one of a potential concern of mine is, if we're just looking at sample results and not looking at the whole system, there's probably some water systems out there that providing filters for is really not the way to go, that they need a whole new system. And really to, educate people on how to know what the risks are in some of those older wells, unprotected section line, shallow well depths. Like that.
I agree with you, Dana, because I'm not gonna say it's a pet peeve, but one of the concerning things, Dan brought it up, is we have all these new engineers. And I've always said the most abused ends of this industry is the homeowner done stuff and type one. Serious. Type one, I mean, there's things being done there that I'm going, like, what? They use too much? What kind of chemical did they, it's like, well, it's like, you've been doing it that way for 25 years. Right, so, and that's the truth, because of attrition in the engineers and stuff, so they're basically relying on some of the industry, and in type one, some of the companies that do type one work are not based in Michigan. They're based outside of Michigan, even though they might have a Michigan license, so they do in Michigan what they're allowed in Indiana, Ohio, or Illinois, which may not be allowed here, but they do it anyways, because that's what their guys know how to do. So, and I think the engineering staff and some of the type one staff, we don't filter our stuff up to them as much as we should. And the same thing like DHHS, hey, test the water, everything's good, you're great, you're good to go. When in fact, that system might be on the verge of being a major problem. Right, so the question is, we've identified the problem, how do we solve it?
I would say it's first geology, shallow approach for wells. For me, knowing my house.
These-
Yeah, that would be it. So we know we kind of have some interesting issues.
Behind me, huh?
And those are out the first with the shallow results.
I do.
And I'll go.
I know. May I make a suggestion, so it's on record that we meet with Maliha, NEHA, and MGWA, and state, and just come up with, some not guidelines, but some goals, so that we can move forward. For instance, we're gonna drill a well in Lansing. Should that be at a supply store, without a permit, and get rid of it right away? What do you call it? Abandon it right away? Or do you have, in areas in the state that there's a nonprofit area that we can build a well, drill a well, and have it for a facility that may not have funding, but we would look at anything at this point.
I would suggest at my house or something.
I said yes until you, if it was in Marquette, I would say yes, I'll pay for it.
Do you want to meet with, there's some like, and subject matter experts at the moment, so.
It would be an education subject matter. What is our needs? What is our goals?
What are your needs? How can we help facilitate them?
Okay.
And then the same
Come up
thing,
with a-
type one, what are your needs? How can we help facilitate them? And then maybe come up with a plan of, if we have to drill some wells throughout the state and areas, we can probably find contractors qualified We can set up a drill demonstration in those areas, or do we drill one and bring everybody in an area of dancing? Or some centralized Mount Pleasant, wherever, and drill a well at a location and immediately abandon it. So that some hands-on experience, because my colleagues in my industry, there are some that are very willing and very good at doing this, but timing and getting everything together is tough. And there are some that are very apprehensive on even having their mother come up watching drill a well. So I mean, it's just the facts of the matter, how it works. So
And
I think what Dan's suggestion is let's collaborate with the industry professionals and see what would work best. Or both. But let's come up with, we've identified some problems, obviously, let's come up with a solution between everybody, including type one.
I think, yeah.
To me, that's,
In type 1 with Brandon, we're going to address that this year for the first time to bring that forward. It'd be nice to move this forward so we have, we're a year ahead talking about these things.
well, I would also suggest if we can, if this does take place, that we work with EGLE and their staff of video, and we video whatever we can for future use, even if it's gonna take hours of editing. And I think having it on record so that we don't have to reinvent the wheel all the time is crucial, so that you could get a new sanitary. And not only do we have these modules you guys have done, which I've seen those, they're very good. But now we're gonna move to the second part of that module and actually show you an edited video of how, what we're talking, the application of those things. Which I think is important. Do we agree?
I agree.
Yeah.
I just need to know moving forward who, Tony, you would suggest.
Well, I'm thinking, I had the groundwork, and that would be something that would be a legit item you guys could work through and have you guys, and then, to try to, I don't know how receptive DHHS is, and again, I'm not even sure who there, depends on, there could be a toxicologist, an epidemiologist, project manager, who would need even.
I would be able to help you because DHHS approached us with, when they did the postcard.
Kristen Ward.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, well,
And they did a very good job of, and were very open to our suggestions, because the first one they came out with, they go, you're gonna scare half the United States with that card. They're gonna freak out. So,
The other app's gonna shoot you.
right, very much. So they did a very good job of collaborating with MGWA and drillers and getting good feedback to make sure that it was a informative, yet educational postcard, so that people could maybe take a good look at their wellhead and cap and water testing and necessities of those things. So
I mean, it would be a lot on your plate and a lot of, but, one of the things we discussed at our meeting, we got an update from them today, was that there's 8 regions, okay, and they're based off of the emergency preparedness region that the state has set up. So each of those regional environmental health, regional engagement coordinators are going to be meeting to see kind of what their needs are, introduce themselves to the directors and that kind of thing. Some of them because they are in the emergency preparedness regions. So if you got a district health department, I think they use, I don't know if it's Central Michigan or something, are in 3 different regions. So that's kind of, because it's based on county. So that's kind of tricky, but they are going to have regional meetings specific to what the needs are of those areas.
well, I think this subject, and this been Dave, we worked on the video, but this subject has been kicked around in this forum a lot. I think we need to do something about it.
We can start with you guys, if you have time, if you got a little bit of time, come to our January meeting with all the directors. We can sort it out and then we can make some
Yeah.
assignments and
Yeah.
create
As
an
long as I'm
agenda
not.
forward.
What-
Kind of.
What's the date of the?
Okay.
Well, I'm not in Dominican, I'll be there.
Okay. It's always the 3rd Thursday of the month
Third Thursday?
Wow,
when our meetings are. So this worked out great today. And it's at the Michigan Bankers Association building. Where we're having it now.
in
In person, yeah. I really want to.
I just want to say that in this industry, there's energies, there's budget, private budget from our industry that is looking for education. And interest, energies, and budgets that can be utilized. One other thing, and I don't know if we've gone any further on it, but John Yelich is going to facilitate a soils program. Do you know anything more about that?
This is what I can tell you, it's planning stages right now. The ground, Water Use Advisory Council went to the legislature last year and had a $22 million ask, and actually got 10 million. Probably because of COVID, money, those type of things. So part of that 10 million, John Yelich has got a twofold program. Number one, for monitoring well network. Number two, to actually, and he's been working on this with data, I believe, verifying the wells in certain areas, the GPS, making sure they're good. But the last part of it is he's got money for driller and sanitary both training on, no, this is not whether claims, or this isn't shale, sample identification.
Soil stream.
For more proper identification of soils.
Is this the guy in Western Michigan?
Sarah's got,
Yes.
Sarah's got her hand up.
Sarah?
Oh, well, if you want to finish that thought, I just wanted to piggyback on to what that topic.
Well, I know that, I guess just to finish what I know, is we offered Johnny's, he was in the very beginning,
Yes.
and through this education program, he always puts the soils class on at the fundamentals. So,
It's
took me
very
about-
good participation from most of the sanitarians.
absolutely.
Thanks.
So what we did is we offered facilities, heated warehouse space for this program in any city that we're located. So we've made it pretty budget for the program.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, right now John's fighting them. Let's put it this way, Western Michigan University was gonna sell his building, wasn't they gonna sell it, or?
Well, no, he needed a building, but the one he wanted, they were kicking him out.
Yeah, that's it, so he's looking for a home too, so that's part of that whole budget issue, so someplace to keep these samples that have been taken throughout the whole state.
Repository.
So, you wanna say something? Or-
Sure. Yeah, the core repository is an essential. The building that they're in is up for the lease is up, and to purchase it, it's not an ideal situation because they've already run out of room there. But anyhow, back to the soils. And I think that what he's been doing is fantastic with the soils training. And I've even been talking with him a little bit more and would like to offer up for your consideration, making that training a bit more robust and, maybe a bit more intensive than what we've done at the fundamentals, to maybe even make it, certificate worthy or something along those lines, so that, soil identification is a critical thing. And as we all know, and even those of us who are trained as geologists, we know, Dave and I might classify something differently, but if they go through the training, they at least, get some consistency in the description of soils that we have across the state, because we make so many decisions about where to place a well, where to place a screen, what could be safe with potential sources of contamination out there, and whether we're making the right decision. We're making these calls based on what's in the well logs, and having better certainty with better trained people in soil descriptions, I think benefits us all down the road. So just offer that up as an idea.
Barry, you might expand that to the soil dispersal training that's done but that, you're saying a big program, that'd be almost a half a day in itself.
Right.
If I could add something to what Sarah said, is I think that I like the idea of a certificate, only because I think that, when the sand starts, or especially in the general, hopefully too, but it's really intensive. You know, we send our team to the fundamentals course, they go to the Mauro one.
Mhm.
But then there's this perception that the training's done. And
It's a taste.
yeah, exactly. So I like the idea of the certification process so that there's a level of achievement tied to it for people that even pass that first year.
You guys have senior requirements for those?
It depends on what credential you have. The register, the Michigan RS, no, but the national credential, the RSREHS, yeah, it's 24 hours every 2 years.
But neither are required for, at least in the curriculum, they're not required.
I think self-certification helps. It's a little more powerful.
Steve, do you do a survey of the participants after the fundamentals course?
As far as remarks,
Yeah, and how they,
probably not as well as we get the surveys back at the Michigan onsite wastewater. That's pretty pronounced. Probably has never been followed up. We probably should do that. I probably could cover.
one of the pieces of feedback that I've heard from environmental health directors, and it's old. That's why I was wondering if you were tracking this to see if it has changed. Is I've heard some feedback from the directors that they're cautious about sending their sanitarians to the fundamentals course because sometimes they have heard when the sanitarians come back that there's this environment of us versus them, like sanitarians versus well drillers. And I wonder if that's, you know, if you're coming to the forum
Sure.
next month, maybe that's something that you can just. talk
That
about
might be a little dated at this point.
Fair
And
enough,
I was historically not part of that, but I witnessed that and we tried to straighten it out. And Sarah would probably share that you were and saw the environment. I thought we really, that's why Buddy starts out the program saying that we are in partnership. And
We're together.
and we also have now just a little half-hour program on the first day just before lunch saying, you know, we put it together that includes, you know, the state, it includes the drillers, it includes the local health department personnel. It is kind of an open, but I think that kind of brings that together. We did have something that happened once or twice and we really tried to quell that.
I think
I would say it was embarrassing.
MGWA should, I think we need to have personnel in that room all the time. Because you're gonna get an adversarial individual, or you could possibly, who wants to take issue with maybe whatever the EGLE or the driller is saying. And I think at that time, what we need to do and should do is squash that and say, if you have an adversarial opinion about what's being said, we can discuss this after the meeting. This is not the place. This is a training. This is for education. If you don't agree with it, we can discuss that later. However, for general purposes of having education and having a good forum to discuss and collaborate, that needs not to happen. Exactly.
I was not a master at arms at that one. I would not hesitate.
Well, and not if I can jump in, we're also going to do something very similar on Friday with not necessarily the fundamentals, but the experienced ones as well. So, and we've got a similar panel with MIOSHA, motor carrier enforcement, those types of things. So, you know, we had a well driller get electrocuted, a little over a year ago. And it's lucky he's alive. He'll probably never work again.
He asked to come back to work every week.
Does he really?
I couldn't believe it. I spoke to the owner and he said every time he talks to him, he wants to come back to work.
So,
He lost limbs, like both legs, arm. Yes.
Oh my goodness.
like Buddy said, we don't want it to be an adversarial. Even with MIOSHA, it's, okay, if MIOSHA shows up on your website, or not your website, but your work site, what do? You know, let's have a conversation. What are they looking for when they show up? What should we expect? Those type of things. So it's more of an informative, not necessarily an adversarial.
And you can, and also, probably most of our members don't know that you can ask for a voluntary inspection. And what does that mean? You can actually ask, come out, check me out.
So
Your
I know
comment is-
that you've done a lot of work
Yeah,
and I
you-
just.
It's well founded, your question, and
It
I
is.
think that we're beyond that and or would stand up and say that, you know, we need to
That's
discuss this.
appropriate behavior.
Yeah, I know.
We
you've
just
done
get
a
our
lot of-
master at arms, come in and say, that,
But I think that's one thing, especially if you're coming to the Lonely High group, is maybe just give, upfront about it.
And I welcome-
You may have some concerns and we're, like, watching it or we've made some changes.
Well,
I think that's all.
three individuals I can think of right off the top. But, and, but anyways,
Your secret's safe with me.
yeah, I know. But I agree. I mean, we're all going for the same. Really. And the more educated and I've always said this, the more educated my regulator is, the easier my job is. Way easier, because then I don't stop. Say, yes, you're thinking right, wrong application, or, just applying it different, that kind of stuff. So as long as I do my job well, if they know their job well, everything is easy. If I don't do my job well, then obviously, but, I can see your concerns, and we will address that better. And we're going to have a Zoom, we're gonna have a Zoom meeting right at the first of the year. I think this is one of the things that I'll probably just ask President just to sign.
And then that gym membership that starts in January.
Yeah. So
I don't think I'd make the bring.
that was all
That's what
out
happened.
of the fundamentals.
Buddy,
Yeah.
can I add something? No, from the well drillers, but they want to know about us and what we do and why we do it.
And that's part of that panel discussion. We're gonna
Yeah.
have them both the fundamentals, but also.
Because I think that, understanding each other is great, but I think that sometimes there's miscommunication, misunderstanding about our function and why we're doing what we're doing. And it would be really great to have a better understanding of like where the gaps are with that.
I agree. I can tell you that part of my, I don't want to say pet peeve, but, and this goes way back, and I know John's gonna agree with me, that the old adage that, well, they never drilled a well, they can't.
Right.
They can't regulate me. I've tried to squash that for my whole presidency, and I know John did too. And it's becoming less and less of an issue as we get more mature and
People age out of the system.
that's right. Well, I wouldn't say age out, it's just a fact, it's gonna happen. Part of the job, part of the day-to-day. So to ask those questions, I think it's good to have that collaborative. Maybe we can fit that in somewhere. Let me look at the schedule. For that next fundamentals / advanced course, maybe we can put something in, maybe half an hour at the end of the session or something. I think, it's a possibility.
that, middle of the, it's before lunch on the first day, it's an open forum with you leading, talking about whatever.
I think we should do it then. Is that right after May? Definitely, we'll talk about that later. Okay, we're on to new business. If we're done there, anybody in line? John? Okay. All right, committee member resignation, Matt Bolang resigned from this committee. Matt got a promotion, correct? For Livingston County Environmental Health Officer. Yeah, so congratulations to Matt. I think it's great. I think he's well deserved. And David reached out to myself, Tony, and both of us came up with the same name at the same time, and we welcomed Sarah Simmons.
I was really, I'm really excited to work with you all, and I think that there's a lot of great work to be done. So I'm just really on.
Welcome. We are on to contractor examination information. Dave.
Yeah, Kathy had a, health department review to do today, so she basically passed the information along to me, to kind of list out, what the results were, first of all, from the October 7th, examination. There were 12 approved, applicants. Out of that, one of them was a dewatering contractor, which they passed. 3 were pump installers. They all passed their portion. Then there was 8 well drillers. 1 was a no-show. 2 failed, and 1 passed enough to become a pump installer, but not all the well driller portion of the exam. And then obviously the rest did okay. So that's pretty much the results from that. The next exam, as far as I know right now, on the website and what Kathy had said, is April 14th, 2023.
Thank you very much. I have anything, and I found that, one no-show. So I went through all of that. Show up.
And you forfeit your examination fee too.
I'm not sure. I hope I do that. I think they have to pay again for the next exam. Yeah, they can show. First question. We kind of knew the person, so that's surprising.
Yeah, I understand. We all have things. So. All right, contractor enforcement, Brad.
So we did one enforcement action in this last quarter. We issued a notice of intent to a driller, notice of intent to revoke. 37 late well logs in the last 2 years, in addition to some other violations. He had an opportunity to sit down with EGLE and the health department over the summer when they told him you need to step up your act. Obviously, that didn't happen. The latest log was 597 days late. So.
Was it oversight? Or he didn't give an explanation whatsoever?
But we have got one, so.
I've been guilty of 6 or 8 months, but it's because it's laying on the floor and they didn't get it, but.
Yeah,
I always pick up the phone immediately and say, I just found this.
I'm fairly confident with the 37 over a 2 year period. That it's unestablished.
That's why I'm asking the question.
Yeah, it's, obviously, there's some leeway if it's 1, 2, 2 C's. There's extenuating circumstances, but when we have an established pattern, and this pattern goes back to 2019. Just chose to go with the more recent violations. So there'll be an informal hearing for that driller. It's currently scheduled for the 4th, so he'll have an opportunity to present reasons why he's in compliance and argue against his reputation. We did issue the notice of intent.
All right, appreciate that, Brad. Other business or comments? Okay, no agenda items for the next meeting. I have a full list.
When is the next meeting? It gives me 4.
Sometime.
Sometimes we'll skip over the summer.
So after the fundamentals.
Yeah. What are you thinking? After fun,
That's what, February?
February 9th or 10th, right?
And the after that.
Absolutely. She said that last year.
So sometime late February or March, what works for everybody.
Sarah has her email.
Oh, and Sarah,
I would like an opportunity and perhaps we could maybe convene a group to discuss and then add it onto the agenda for the next meeting to talk about maybe some opportunities to improve the lat long locations in well logic that are being entered, day forward from today on. Some considerations that we're giving us for some maybe new electronic apps or a tool to be able to better discern the lat long for the wells that make sure that our locations are accurate. As you know, and we've talked about, John Yelich's group of students from MGS are correcting many of the lat longs that we have in there, but we can't afford to sustain this. As you know, this is a $3 million project to correct lat longs. And we need to find a way to improve and get it right the first time. And so I thought maybe there might be an app or a tool that would make it more convenient so that it would work similar to, your Google Maps, where you just click on a point and it gives you all of the information that you need. You wouldn't have to look it up. You wouldn't have to know your township section and range, because it would just populate that for you and you can just fill it all in. Or it would fill it in for you. So we've been looking at some opportunities like that and would love to maybe sit down with you and talk about what you think about some concepts, or what kind of concept you may have that can help us with those.
I welcome that. You want to just set something up or send out an email to the whole committee would be fine with me.
Okay.
I do know that there are some softwares that are going to become available soon for our industry that you can not only do the well log right from your phone, but you can do your invoicing, so on and so forth, right? And that's in its infancy right now, but it's coming soon.
Really?
So yeah, that'll help, I think, but I'm just gonna be the guy that does the white elephant in the room. We all know how to run a GPS. Just make sure you got it on digital degree, then if it's wrong, send it back to the driller and they can correct it. I mean, that's where I'm at with it, but if there needs to be, it's like anything else. Yes, I agree. We probably should have some more education, revisit it. I would like to hear Anita's comment on this, to be honest with you, because she's been dealing with this since its infancy. Is she on?
Yes. Anita can tell you.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
I've been pushing them to her to fix right now, so.
Yeah, we got kind of a twofold problem. We've got drillers not submitting accurate lat longs, and we've got local health departments not even looking at them. Now, that's not I don't want to make it sound like that's everybody.
Okay.
It's not. It's not. Some departments do a great job and some drillers do a great job, but that's still a tremendous problem. Yeah, Sarah and we've talked about it, and how do we deal with this? And, other than holding the gun to somebody's head saying, you gotta get accurate locations, or you've gotta check these lat longs that these contractors are putting down. It's frustrating as all get out. And we're still, like Sarah said, we're just exploring different options to try to make it easier. I mean, it's not difficult, like Buddy said, even if you don't use a GPS unit, you can go on Google Maps in your office and zoom in and click, and here, the well's on this side of the house, click, boom, there's your lat long. But for whatever reason, some people just are not seeing that as a big deal, and it's a huge big deal for us. So that's my 2 cents.
maybe in some of this training,
Maybe it needs to come from folks like Errol, Like you hold up your phone, this is the app I use, this is how I
Right, yeah.
make the numbers
That's what I'm
really
saying
so I
right
can
now.
see them with
Right.
my.
I'm only 115 feet after because I'm in the building. That's, I'm within
Yeah.
115 feet of the spot someplace.
Should we make a 30-minute program at the fundamentals class?
I would think it would be at the advanced,
Advanced?
probably because it's guys that are already piling logs that we're having problems. Yes? Anita?
I have preached accurate lat longs at every fundamentals course I've ever spoke at. I do it at local health department trainings. I mean, we have done this till we're blue in the face and it's just not sinking in. And I think we just need some other sort of way to get across the importance, again, to that set of drillers that isn't getting it and the local health department, those that are not getting it either.
Don't want to.
But yeah, I mean, the well records
Problem.
talk I do at fundamentals. Every year I do a huge part on well locations. But again, you're only getting the people there that, you know, the kind of the bad actors aren't necessarily there. That's part of the problem, I think.
You're preaching my choir. The people that need to be in the room are never there.
Mhm.
So let me go back to my board. Not the MGWA is the all governing body of anything, but, and I'm gonna ask them if I could just make a statement where I would support, MGWA would support the department not putting up and having a very short leash with bad lat logs that are gonna start sending them back and the log's not accepted. You don't get it corrected by the date, it's gonna be late. We end up in a situation like this. I mean, someday we gotta grow up. That's my opinion, and I'm not afraid to make that statement. But I wanna
We
get the
would-
board, so don't get it, and I can do that in an email, so. Not that it's gonna solve it, but if we support EGLE and saying enough is enough. And I can't say as I blame you at all.
Well, I appreciate that support immensely. And we're also looking at modernization. So well logic's not gonna look like well logic in the nearest future, you know, probably a couple years. And we're looking at as you know, with the Water Use Advisory Council, the hydrologic framework and the groundwater database that we are developing through EGLE. And well logic is gonna be, that data set is going to be incorporated into that. And, you know, you want that data to be right. And because again, we're making decisions, we're going to be determining who may be in harm's way if there's contamination in the groundwater and who we may have to, you know, replace water for, where water is available, where water may not be available. All of that information can be gleaned from this data. And knowing the locations of these points is critical for that.
I may have you come in our annual meeting and make that statement you just made right all over you. Because I've been telling them that forever. That whether you realize it or not, you're using this data. And however accurate you're putting it on the paper is going to determine whether your future customer has the right use of water. So, okay, I
Very much so.
appreciate that. Yeah, appreciate that. As far as agenda items, I think I need to go myself. And I think Anita can do it too. Go back through some of these things that we've talked about. We've talked about a lot of this again, where we're at as far as maybe with the training. We can talk about how the fundamentals went. The disbursement of funds, we don't need to talk about. We can see where we're at with ASTM, our new rules. Probably by then, hopefully we'll at least have a hearing scheduled or done. Public hearing, you know. Maybe we might even have a potential rules change by then. And, I think the training with Maliha, DHHS, to me is a very important topic. Where to go with it, and then I will also have an answer on, or have the letter, we're talking about the marijuana letter that's gonna go out. Where that ended up, and also. What was it going with this? Lost my train of thought. Oh.
We are thinking the four items that we're talking about as far as education moving forward would be the Michigan Eagle, MGWA, Maliha, and MIHA. Those are the four that we want to focus on. Is there anyone else?
Did you say DHS?
What is that?
DHA grants, human services. Health and services.
That's over about MIHA. That's the district health department.
Can you repeat those?
I had Michigan Eagle. Just because there was blank line and fit in Michigan groundwater, Maliha, MIHA, in addition, you said the DHHS. I don't know, that's different than MIHA.
Oh, yeah, it's a governmental agency.
And who is,
Department of Health and Human Services.
where do I get that contact or who represents that?
Let me look at my emails.
Also, there's regional gateway to be Kristen Walker to be.
I think if you had contact with Kristen Ward, probably.
All right. I'll send out a kind of a questionnaire.
Yeah.
And ask on those so that we can.
I think
Yeah.
Kristen would be a good start.
I
I
do.
don't think we can be trained.
No.
That's like,
No,
But I think that,
yeah, we're just looking for an outline of needs at this point.
yeah,
yeah,
that would work. And the self-certification, I think we need to look more into that, maybe what that would look like. On both sides, you know, us, as MGWA, or drillers, period. And also, like you said, they go to it, I'm trained, I'm good, off I go, you know. We all know that that's not the case. They're paid every time I go to something. Anybody. I think it's important. Other than that, we should know who our new director is by next meeting too. And and we may identify what unified control is gonna look like for all of our teachers. Will be interesting, so anything that comes up. Pop it up. I don't know if these will be part of it, whether it's in, out, not worry about it, send it back, I don't know.
I mean, I'll talk to Steph about it.
Please.
I've already talked to him at, I think it was last year's fundamentals. He brought those to me and we talked about them and I had the same problem I do right now with them, so. And that's not gonna change.
And I don't disagree with you, but I did my due diligence.
Yeah, I understand.
So,
I understand.
that rate is not too high.
Yeah, our group was just talking about that just the other day. We're like, Steph is not doing it.
He was walking with a cane, he said he's falling apart in the sea.
This is Steph.
Yeah, really, in Ohio, oh, he just was crying blues, well, and just.
Yeah.
Buddy, what about putting on the agenda, a recap of executive directive number 9? That's the governor's executive directive about providing ensuring safe drinking
Yeah.
water, both for those on wells and on municipal.
Yeah.
I know that a lot of us here were on the stakeholder call, the listening session. And I do want to say that I've heard from multiple sources that they thought that was the best stakeholder session. It was the most participation and
Maggie
Wide
did a nice
variety
job
of topics.
facilitating that.
yeah, she did a nice job. with the
Yes,
speaker.
sir, for consult.
Yeah. maybe-
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe we should carve out some time to talk about that, because by then, I'm hoping there would be a publicly available.
Consensus.
Let's do it the end of this year.
Yeah, and I'm not sure, it sounds like what due is kind of like a draft report, and then there might be some kind of back and forth and further, alignment and stuff, because there were so many different pieces. We just did one little part of it. So I think there's gonna be some, just some, you know, housekeeping on all of it before it's.
Yes. Well, we should, well, we're gonna know it. NGWA, we found out 21 states, water is the highest. Shouldn't be a political topic in my opinion, it should just be a topic, but it's the number one in 21 states. California is not number one because they have tier 4 emissions and all that. but Yeah, it's a hot topic. I agree. I think we should have that, maybe see where we're at with it. Check up. Okay, anything else anybody have?
Raise my hand.
Could we get kind of one thing I was thinking of when we were talking about this. MGWA, maybe kind of a PFAS update where we're at in Michigan with contamination. Is there already been more? Is it pretty much contained in the areas of town? I know it's slippery, it's very slippery. But kind of where we're at a little bit, Sarah, maybe you could.
Yeah.
Someone from Empire or something like that to come in, is that what you think it's there, or?
Yeah,
We can do that. We can have Abby join us, or even Ian. He can join us, and I think that would be fantastic. As far as it being contained, no. Do we
Oh, I know
find
it's
it
not.
every day? Yes.
and this will do, I'd like to know if there's plans for remediation. Because I know in a lot of cases it was just concealed, done, it's there.
Is there, I guess, I'll probably invite one of them and they're gonna ask specifically what you're looking for. Is there anything specific you want them to?
No, it's just a general report, basically, so I can go back to MGWA and say, here's where we're at. This is where the PFAS situation is as far as, you know, yeah, we pretty much identified, you know, how many type 1s, that kind of thing were identified as potential problems. You know, Kalamazoo is close, weren't they? Yeah. And, if there's remediation plans and if they've had any success with point of use or point of source remediation or filtration. I know there's some, I know you talked to all the treatment companies and they got the solution, but I'd like to hear the reality of the fact, you know, what are we doing with the spent product? What's happening?
All
I
right.
was asking those questions.
Okay, yeah, I'll bring those three up and it's kind of a general update on top of that. Okay,
Okay, other than that, I didn't have anything else.
set a date, I guess. Set a date for next time.
Oh, yeah, let's set a date.
I don't talk to these two old, I can reach out and ask you if it is okay.
So, February, how's the 23rd look for everybody of February? Or would you rather do it the 3rd? No, I'm saying the 3rd. 1, 2, 3, the 16th, Tony said you're gonna be in town anyways.
Wouldn't we be doing,
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be for the internet, that would be.
wouldn't we
fantastic.
want a March date?
You've got a question on the.
Yes. So I got a question?
Aren't we doing it every 3 months, so it'd be March?
Okay, let's go March.
Beginning of March.
March 16th.
That is,
We'll have to say it from.
Okay, you wanna do it after that? Would it be better after that for you guys? So you'd have something, 23rd? 23rd? I don't really hear what's going on and what's gonna happen.
In the morning. Maybe better. That's me.
No.
Oh, what's it saying? Oh,
I'm jumping, you don't.
I never thought that far ahead.
I
The
mean,
23rd looks good to me.
the 23rd looks good to me too, so,
ready in the morning, is it later?
Is that okay?
9:30?
Yeah, no earlier.
Yeah,
Block time for 9:30 to 10.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's for the the next.
Yeah, yes,
9:30?
9:30.
I'm not, you just tell me where to go. I'm not, I'm just the help. You just tell me where to go.
Can I put that in writing?
Yes. I'll send you a bill.
I would knock out, so 23rd, 9:30.
Send you a bill. Your phone, it's just a password.
And making a note, because I gotta ask the board for permission to. Make everybody grow up.
Good luck to you.
Okay, I look for a motion to adjourn,
I'll make that motion.
right there.